you do not own a job. Okay? That's more of a mindset shift, right? Because the truth be told, whether you're an insurance agent, a real estate agent, you're doing an air conditioning company, a roofing company, you could make $1 million, right? But if you do it just by owning your job, oh my gosh, all you've done is gone from one problem to another one. So make sure you own the company, set up the structure to do that. Number 3 is you have to pay.
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
How would you like to make your first million? Today we have Mike Milligan with us, joining us from San Juan, Puerto Rico, and he's the chairman of OneUp Financial. And also, he have a 12-week breakthrough how to 2 to 5x income as a financial professional in 12 weeks. So Mike, tell us, what are the 5 steps you recommend entrepreneurs in order to make the first million?
There is no really set in stone exact 5-step formula for everybody. That's the key. I believe everybody's one of a kind, and I believe that somewhere along a 5-step program, something's going to break. You're going to make a mistake. That's one of the parts about being an entrepreneur. But if I can give you like some directions, and you know that there's going to be some steps along the way that can go, the number one thing I think you have to have is you have to have the solution to problems clients in the industry face. So for instance, I think like if you're not clear on what you do, if you don't have a clear edge that makes you different, then everything else I say really doesn't make it make any difference. Number 2, I think the second thing that you would want to do is you would want to make sure that you own the company, that you do not own a job. Okay? That's more of a mindset shift, right? Because the truth be told, whether you're an insurance agent, a real estate agent, you're doing an air conditioning company, a roofing company, you could make $1 million, right? But if you do it just by owning your job, oh my gosh, all you've done is gone from one problem to another one. So make sure you own the company, set up the structure to do that. Number 3 is you have to pay yourself first. And so to get to $1 million, you have to be able to live on some of that money, right? And if you don't pay yourself, and you just keep putting in the company, you're going to burn out really early on. And then you have to make the tax code your business partner, right? Most people, the tax code is an expense. And if you've ever listened to me before, as the author of the One of a Kind Financial Plan, I say taxes are the biggest expense you're ever going to pay. The tax code is your partner. It's a way to get deductions. It's a way to keep more of the money for yourself. And then the fifth step is once you've know that you could solve problems, once you realize you own the company, once you pay yourself as revenue comes in, once you make the tax code as your partner, the 5th thing you have to do is amplify your voice. You have to tell people what you do. You cannot be scared of what you do. You want to hear in business, you want to hear the word no. You want to hear it. You want to get people to hang up the phone, because then you're closer to a breakthrough. And a breakthrough is where revenue comes and where you get to the part of earning that first $1 million.
Mike, so tell us the story, how you decide to become an entrepreneur.
So yeah, it started with like when I was 11 years old. My grandmother, out of desperation, had to innovate because my grandfather, the love of her life, got injured in the company he owned and then developed cancer and died shortly after. And my grandmother was a grandmother. She was a wife. She was a mother. She would always make Sunday dinner for us, but now she needed to turn what she knew how to do into income for herself. And so at the age of 64, she started a collared sandwich business, and I was 11 years old, right? So I would spend a lot of time with my grandmother. We would go sell these collard sandwiches, and then I would start counting the money with her. I did not know at that point in time that my grandmother was an entrepreneur. I couldn't even spell that word when I was 11 years old. But now I know exactly that my roots and my entrepreneur spirit came from helping my grandmother build a business that she built out of necessity, out of desperation, because she needed to live. And she wasn't solving a problem. She was selling a luxury item, right? It was a collard sandwich, right? And I know most people don't equate collard sandwiches with luxury, but most people were eating hamburgers or ham sandwiches. Collard sandwiches was a delicatessen in this small town. Luxury. She knew how to sell a luxury item with love. I learned from the best, and then I was trained and mentored by some of the greatest minds in business along the way. And so my journey went from a young entrepreneur with my grandmother through the corporate halls and boardrooms of some of the biggest companies in America to then founding my own company in 2013 and being independent, proactively independent ever since.
So, Mike, a lot of people, a lot of our listeners, they are in corporate, okay? And they're listening to you and they say, wow, I wish I have this courage to drop the corporate job and start my own business. However, it's not for everybody, because in corporate, for example, sometimes you can tell people, look, this is not my job. And when you become an entrepreneur, everything is your job. So can you tell us what is the good, the bad, and the ugly of the transition from corporate to, because corporate, they make you very comfortable. They pay you very good money, huh? And they don't want you until one day they fire you. But when they want you, when they really want you, they make you really comfortable. And so tell us what the good, the bad, and the ugly, and what is your message for people that are on the edge? Some people are on the edge for years.
Yeah.
And my question to you, were you in the edge for years or not really?
I wish I would have started my business 10 years earlier than I did. Now, I would not have been prepared to start that business. There would have been a lot more failure along the way. And I probably would have taken a different path to where I am now, but I think I would have been further along in my journey if I would have started sooner. The reason most people don't start, Harry, is because they're scared of the other side. Will people actually want to work with me doing what my entrepreneurial business will do? And that in fear was what stops, and it's what paralyzes a lot of people. And so people that are in corporate America, if you are genuinely happy, you have saved in your 401k, you have money to go on vacation, you don't have a lot of debt. What I would say is, if you give that up, how would your life change? Don't think about the optimistic side of it. Think about the pessimistic side if you give it up. Like, if I all of a sudden leave, I don't have income, and I don't have income for 5 years, what will my life be like? And if you feel alive by that journey, and if you have the financial means to start something, go to it. But what a lot of people have done, Harry, at this point, is they've become side hustlers. They have a corporate job, and then they start something on the side to test it. We used to call that test marketing. Now we call it side hustles, right? It's the same thing that people did 25 years ago that they do now. It's just test marketing, side hustles, all the things. It'll be called something else in 10 years. But if you find that a side hustle is earning money, and if you devote more time to it, it would exponentially earn more money, it may be in your future. But there's a lot of ways that you could become an entrepreneur and still have a corporate job. You can buy a piece of real estate, and you could be a real estate investor. You can put some capital into an entrepreneurial venture and get the returns of that, and have a consultant's voice in that. I don't think, Harry, everybody should be an entrepreneur. I think that there's a lot of people who want the title entrepreneur, but they don't want the work that comes next to it. Most entrepreneurs who are really successful, and and they'll tell you this, and I'm a spokesman for this too. We are on the brink of failure more often than not, right?
I agree with you.
We are one bad month, 2 bad months away from having to reshape our business, right? But I've gotten to a point in my life where that is not a stressful event to me, right? I am to the point in my career where I know it's not 1 or 2 months away. It's a year away or 2 years away if something bad truly happens. But the key is you have to build up to that. And if it's going to be too stressful, if it's going to break relationships, if it's going to cause too much anxiety in your life, stay in the corporate job and just try a side hustle.
And I think that is great to try with a side hustle, so you can see if you really like it, and you can see if you really have product market fit, what we're talking about. Okay, because you mentioned a point. Okay, and there is a statistic out there which is 80% of the solo entrepreneurs don't make more than 100K. So what you have is you are a solo entrepreneur, but what you have is your own job, and even worse, because you have to do tax, you have to do accounts, you have to do everything apart from delivering the service. So very few entrepreneurs actually break through the mark of making over 100,000. We're not talking even a million. We're talking about the $100,000 mark, and then if you're gonna create a job for you, a business, but at the end of the day, is gonna be only you doing everything. Sometimes what you created is just a lot of more work for yourself, right?
Yes, that's right. I mean, the stats in the United States are crazy, right? There's like 36 million small businesses in the United States, right? I mean, they're most. Wow. We call people we call entrepreneurs that have multiple business serial entrepreneurs. You know, like, so for me, I'm a U.S. citizen, live in Puerto Rico, but I personally own 7 businesses and I'm partner in 3 others. Okay, so 10 businesses total, so 36.2 million, representing, and it represents 99 small businesses represent 99% of all U.S. businesses.
Wow.
And 29, almost $30 million of those businesses have 0 employees. They're solopreneurs. They're freelancers. They're sole proprietors. And the interesting thing about that is the total amount, you said it, right? Most businesses don't even make $100,000, right? The average business that has employees, the average annual revenue for businesses with 1 to 9 employees is $794,000. So as we started this podcast, you said, Mike, what's the 5 steps to making $1 million? Right? I gave you 5 great steps, but the reality is most businesses never get to that number. They get close. But like, if you really want to be at that number, you have to perfect those 5 steps we talked about at the beginning of the podcast.
Then, Mike, the other question is, having one business already, like we discussed, is difficult to get to this first million and get the product market fit. So, but now becoming a serial entrepreneur is a totally different conversation, because I own few businesses, also in the past, and you have to build not only one brand, different brands, different process, but there is something also that you have in common. So when do you realize, or what do you take action, right? And why you decide that you want to become a serial entrepreneur rather than owning one business, and why?
So when I did it, like, my first business was in the financial planning and investment world. But there's a lot of like subsets of that, right? So coaching, media, podcast, writing books, right? Being on TV, appearance fees, speaking fees. It's another business. Then it was, so then the coaching, not coaching clients, now coaching other advisors when you become very, very big. Then it was the real estate, owning the building that our company was housed in. That's another business. And then when you branch off from there, when you go from the planning investments, when you go to the insurance arm of it, that includes health insurance, life insurance, annuity business. Then when you go to the coaching side, the coaching of clients, coaching of advisors, the real estate side, and then the speaking and media, they all work toward one brand. But the key is you don't want to have them all in one company, right? So we of our 7 companies, right, 4 of them make over $1 million a year. 4 of them. The real estate does it because, you know, we have a great building, but we pay ourselves rent. I'm not going to pay myself $1 million rent on my own building. And then one of our others does not, or 2 of our others does not yet, but they will. We've been recognized as an Inc. 5000 company, right? In one of our businesses, and I think within 2 years, 3 of our 7 businesses will be Inc. 5000. But the key to it, though, is when you're a serial entrepreneur, often people get away from the main moneymaker. Like they'll own a dry cleaning business and then go out and own a service-based entity that has nothing to do with machines. It's kind of stay in the same industry, right? So if you're a roofer, you own a great roofing company, maybe you get an air conditioning company, right? Because people who have roofing issues have air conditioning problems. Maybe you bring a plumbing company into it, right? And so you can have multiple businesses, but try to keep your customers somewhere in the same path. Because if you're dealing with the same customers, right, over and over again, you just give them multiple opportunities to buy from you over and over again.
Yeah, otherwise you dilute your brand. And the other day I was interviewing one podcast guest, right? And it was interesting because she was a dentist and a dancer. And she has like a dance school and a dentist. And I'm like, wow, and she said, well, both businesses are doing well. But I was thinking exactly your point, like, wow, it's going to be very difficult to consolidate these 2 things. Because otherwise doing 2 different, totally different. So it's 2 brands, so it sounds to me like it's more diluted or more different to consolidate that brand than what you're talking about. I remember my first business was in property, right? I was living in London. We rent the house and we rent it room by room, right? To the people that comes to London. And then we have an English school. Why? Because they needed English lessons and they were leaving the property because the English school they were going, it was expensive and it was far and expensive. So I said, okay, we open an English school for you. And then the same customer was saying, well, we strongly finding jobs, so we open a career advice services for them. And even I opened even a restaurant, which was a big disaster, by the way. I lost £200,000 in that one. But it was in the same thing. They were saying, well, it would be nice. Most of them, 50% were Spanish. They said, well, it would be nice if you open a restaurant. I said, okay, I'm going to open the restaurant. It was a miscalculation that I opened a huge restaurant without having any clue about restaurants. And I took a hit on this, but you just share with us. See, is all are not gonna be successes. You're gonna have some
failures,
some things that some miscalculation, right? Lack of experience, maybe. You would call it. Go ahead.
One of my businesses that I tried to start was called Championship College Planning. I was literally going to help families create a path forward for their kids to go from high school to the graduation stage and pay less along the way. And it was a great concept. And I could, from a front of a room, right, I could tell everybody, and they'd be like, yes, yes, yes. But the entry fee as a client to Championship College Planning was $10,000. You come in, I would design your plan for you. And the problem with that whole idea is they were struggling to pay the tuition bill. How are they going to pay $10,000? So a concept in your mind, I could solve a lot of problems, right? But if you don't have the right target audience you're selling to, it's the wrong product, right?
Things, Mike. Yeah. Two things. You have to solve a problem, but people have to be willing to pay for same thing we have with the career advice.
Right.
So when we started, okay, we're gonna charge for the service, and then we were giving the service, they were finding the job, and I'm checking the balance and why we didn't get paid for the service. And well, Harry, you have to wait because first they don't have a job. Now they find the job. You need to wait 1 month or 2 until they pay this for the service.
Yeah, it was a hard lesson for me to learn, but what I learned
for me also.
What I learned is you can't sell bathing suits in Alaska. Right. That's what I equate it to now. So like, when
some things, Mike, sounds good in paper, sounds good to you. You even think, okay, I'm helping my customers to give it. It was a different thing, the English school to the career advice. I'll tell you why. Because the English thing, parents were paying for them.
Right.
So they do have the budget because they come to London, like in Europe, right? There is like when you finish university, you go to London, you learn English, and this is good for you to find job in Spain, Greece, Italy, whatever. So everybody goes to London to learn English, and the parents say, okay, you know why? I'm gonna pay for 6 months, but I'll sending you, and I will get the accommodation and the school. So I knew, right, that even if they arrive to any country, they don't have any job, they don't have any credit check, they don't have anything. I know that they can pay, and there is no problem to pay because I know that the parents from Europe allocate this budget for this. Now, for the career advice, it's a different ballgame because what it means is after 6 months, they decide to stay without the parents' help. So now they need to find their own job to pay me the rent, to pay the school. And then in that bracket is what we have the, it was not as successful like the other ones because we have time to collect because of this, because the dynamic changed. And I thought that was the same thing. I thought, okay, you know what? English is good. Okay, the next thing is a career advice. The next thing is a restaurant. Well, it seems good in paper, but actually the dynamic changed because the affordability changed because now, obviously, that's the other thing. They find the first job, but the first job is like a waiter, things like this. Of course, they cannot go every day to the restaurant. They cannot go every week to a restaurant to spend. But then my consolidating the brand, creating something. I have a friend always that said, Harry, don't open a company, open a corporation, right? Meaning have a corporation where you have all those businesses. It's kind of the same structure, Mike, that you have. You maybe don't have it on the one corporation, but at the end of the day, all these 7 businesses are like a corporation. They are all consolidating that brand. So when, which is also very good, I was listening yesterday to a tech talk talking about the lifespans of the company. Okay, they say, well, human will live 80 years, 90 years, 100 years. How come companies, they live so little, right? And they were doing an analogy with biology and companies, which was quite interesting. So to keep the company to live longer, Mike, what is your take on this? What do you think that will, not only one company, but at least a group of companies make them live longer, which is something sometimes challenging because we had COVID, we had this, we have market change, we have tech, right? Everything can come as a surprise really fast. And like you said, 2-3 months, maybe a year, you could be, one of the business can be totally wiped out.
I mean, you got to think about it. Like if you go back in history, right? I mean, the UK has a long history, like a really long history, and a long history of pro-business, by the way, right? And so in London, there's a lot of people who, like the oldest businesses in London are maybe 200-300 years old, maybe. right?
Oh yeah. We have delivery companies there that they have been in the city of London that they have been there from forever. They
Right.
call it
But
delivery
those,
companies, something like this.
yeah, but those companies, right, in comparison to the history of the world, they're babies, right? If you think about how long the history of the world's been. Now think about like the Liberty companies, right, in the UK, how long they've been around. Now think about how many businesses have failed since they started. See, a business, just like an individual, has a lifespan. It has a beginning date and it has an ending date. And it also has many transformation dates if it goes more than 20 years or so. New leaders, new energy, new purpose. Companies that don't shift with what's going on. So right now, AI is dominating the news everywhere. And if you don't embrace AI, you're going to become a company like Blueberry or BlackBerry. Do you remember BlackBerry, the phone? BlackBerry, the phone.
Absolutely.
Right. They were like, hey, you need to get a touch screen. And they're like, no, we're good. Our screen's perfect. Well, there's this new thing, iPhone, coming out. You should really change your model. And they're like, no, that thing's a novelty. Remember Google, when like iPhone 3 came out, they put something out that said the iPhone, they put a commercial out. Google did, that said the iPhone is dead. Right? They like,
Wow.
rest in peace the iPhone. Do we really think the Google phone is a viable bit? Now, Google's a different business, right? But a product line failed. A business in a business. BlackBerry failed. Nokia, not a market player. See, if you don't adapt and change as you move through a business cycle, like right now it's AI. If you're not adapting AI in your business, if you're not using it to try to create streams and in embracing it with your clients, by the way, like we embrace AI with our clients, not as an adversary of our business. We embrace it. And if you don't do that, then you've created a business that is getting closer to death than growing toward more life.
So, Mike, the one of the coming back about the subject of what can we do for companies to live longer, which is a big challenge, right? I heard the other day also that one company in Japan, which is developers, and they were doing for thousands of years, and then only one member of the family make a mistake in one of the things, and the whole company that have been around for thousands and thousands of years, development company, over leveraging big development, and they lost everything and they gone. On the other hand, respond to change, right? What
Yes.
Mike, in terms of the structure of the company, and we're talking about big company, like for example, let's say Kodak and Fujifilm, we have these, one dead, the other one survived, right? I remember, like, in terms of a structure of the company, some companies have this big vertical structure, look like a Titanic. Okay, so when you want to turn right and you see the iceberg, this Titanic is so big, it's so huge, so heavy, so vertical, structured, that when you want to turn right, is too slow, and then clearly you hit the iceberg. Whether other companies structured the same, right, and a big Titanic, like 3,000 small boats, where the CEO is in the small boat on the front, but then you have 3,000 small boats with one small captain in each boat. So then if the CEO said, turn right, then the 3,000 boats, small boat, turn right quickly. And they clearly can respond to change faster, this type of structure. So what do you think the culture and company structure have an implication in respond to change?
I mean, like, it's having a situation like the Titanic in a business world, like that story you're telling, means that you've really had huge growth, but you haven't become nimble along the way. And so, it's not a good situation to be in, right? When that happens, but hopefully businesses are just not going to be out in the middle of the North Atlantic in the middle of the winter with an iceberg there, right? Hopefully they're going to recognize the conditions they're in and not think that they are too big to fail. See, that was the problem with the Titanic, right? This is the unsinkable ship, right? Most companies think that we can weather any storm, but when you run into something that is just catastrophic because management is not paying attention, when the key leaders are not doing what they need to, then you put yourself in a situation that ultimately could lead to failure, at least cause to lower productivity, employees not being excited to come to work, and ultimately, your shareholders or the owners, not seeing the benefit of keeping that boat afloat.
So, Mike, can you tell us about your book that you wrote, and what's your favorite chapter?
Yeah, so I wrote a book called the One of a Kind Financial Plan. It's available on Amazon. So you can go to Amazon anywhere books are sold in the world, actually, and buy a copy of this book. I love the book because the subtitle is "Say Goodbye to One Size Fits All and Hello to
Show
What
it to
Actually
us
Works."
again. Let me have a look.
Yeah, One of a Kind Financial Plan. Say goodbye to One Size Fits All and hello to what actually works. I love this book because in the introduction, I say that the financial system, the financial markets, financial companies are a setup. And then I tell you why. And then I tell you things that will work. And, it's not going to be, I've taken a very business-minded approach to this book about building vision and purpose for your life. I put the thought in people's head that you are unique and your financial plan should be as unique as you are. And it's 100% the case. If you want to, even in the UK, Harry, there's 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun on a Big Mac. And if you want to talk about that, right, a Big Mac, whether or not it's in the UK or Tokyo, Singapore, or Los Angeles, is the same thing. You want to talk about the definition of one size fits all? That's the perfect definition. But in the financial world, 60% in stocks, 40% in bonds, rules that have become outdated. They're littered all around. And what this book highlights is that your financial plan should be about your life, not about the person managing your money, the person giving you advice. It's all about you. And I go step by step on that, how to build a plan around taxes, retirement, investments, long-term care, and legacy, so that you can go out and live a one-of-a-kind life.
So, Mike, how does it work that the in investing, and that's the other point as well that we want to talk about it, because we have a lot of entrepreneurs, okay? The fact that you are a very good entrepreneur, that doesn't mean that you're a very good investor. We talk a lot about in this podcast, if you have one business, and this business is making a lot of money, right? Usually what happens, everybody take all this money, reinvest in the business. Take all this money, reinvest in the business. Take all this money, invest in the business. And then COVID happened, something happened. You go to zero in 3 months and you end up with nothing. Whether, if, for example, you make a lot of money in your business and then you take this money and maybe you buy a property, and after you pay the mortgage, you have some money left. This money left, if you want, you can put it back in marketing for your own business. Guess what happened? If one day something happened to this business, at least you have the property, you have the assets. And
yes, that's true.
And we talk about that. So what is your take on this? And when do you realize that being a good entrepreneur is not enough? Then you not only have to be a good entrepreneur, which is the ability to make money, but also you have to become a very good investor, okay? Or at least have knowledge of investor and get the right advice. Because if you don't understand that, and might be somebody share the story here that exit his business for a lot of money, and they went to a financial planner exactly like this that have their own goal for themselves, like you said, stock, bonds, whatever, the formula, whatever. And the guy said that after the year finished, a lot of zero was missing from his account, and he understood that the financial plan that was designed for him, it was not 100% with his interest, because he realized that the people he was working with, they make money on the fees, regardless if he make money or not.
Right.
So he said, well, I need to learn how to do, I need to understand more. So then he started to learn, and he knows a lot more about it. So, and there are some people, entrepreneurs here, have done out of the 500 millionaires who interviewed this podcast, make millions, lose it, make millions, lose it. So clearly they know how to make the money, keeping it, which is understand investment, and an investment that works for you is a different ballgame. So, Mike, can you expand a little bit more about what is financial plans, dealing with the necessity of the client means?
Well, when I talked about the 5 steps earlier, I said one of the key things you have to do, I think it was step 3, is you have to pay yourself. And by paying yourself, you're paying yourself for your time today, but you're also paying yourself, your future self, for the work you're doing. And that's very critical. If you have a business that has a lot of risk in it, you also don't want to have an investment that also has a lot of risk. You want to counteract risk in your life. And so risk is not something that you want
That's
to
a great
avoid.
tip.
Yeah, you don't want to avoid risk. You just want to balance it, right? If everything you do is risky, failure is more likely. Okay, so balance it out. And so, like, if you're working with a financial planner and your business is, you're all in on your business, but you are saving, you want to make sure that you have enough saved that because like Harry, if something like COVID happens, it's going to impact your business, but it could also impact your investment portfolio. Well, create something that is not going to perform the exact same way. That's called diversification. And it's called not putting all of your eggs in one basket, right? Because if the basket falls, you don't want everything to break. And so, there is entrepreneurs, they do need to find ways to diversify. They need to find, and we call that, by the way, passive. Business is very active. Passive investing, right, is a way to put money aside with an investment purpose in mind. And if you've got a very risky business, that's safe, right? But you got to be able to get to that money when you need it.
Out of the 500 millionaires that we interview in this podcast, 1 out of 5 are property investors, property millionaires. Do you think that the real estate, if you know what you're doing, could be one of the investments that might give people some lower risks, or still there is, real estate, sometimes if you don't know what you're doing, it could be very risky also, right?
That's true. That's absolutely right.
But you do have real estate in your own business and doing fantastic. So what do you think about real estate as a vehicle to what are the good, the bad, and the ugly?
So, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's the second time you've asked me that, right? The good, the bad, and the ugly. And the good, the bad, and the ugly, a lot of times can be a lot of the same things, and they could be things you not control, right? So you could do everything that would be good, some that would be bad, some that would be ugly. And just depending on things you cannot control, market conditions, outside influence, it could turn the same action and make it good, bad, or ugly. And that's probably a point of view that not many of your 500 millionaires that you've interviewed have said, right? They come out with something provocative, right? Here's my provocative statement. The same action could be good, bad, or ugly because it's something you cannot control. What you have to try to plan for is the uncontrollable as an entrepreneur, and make sure that if the same action creates a good, bad, or ugly situation, that you're still in business when that happens. at the end, because the only way you can serve and solve problems of people is to stay in business.
Mike, if someone is in love with this conversation, how people can find you, how this process work? Where can they buy the books? How many books have you written? Can you tell us the titles and where can they buy them?
So the first book's called The One of a Kind Financial Plan, available on Amazon in 2 weeks, right? Approximately 2 weeks. Retirement Deja Vu, which is my second book, will be released also on Amazon. And then in October, Retirement Chi, How to Build a Vision for Your Life, is going to be released on Amazon. So if you want to keep up with me, go into Amazon, put my name in there, Mike Milligan, author, and then follow my author page. You'll get notified when new books come out. But if you want to have a conversation, if we want to talk about where you are in the entrepreneurial journey, if you want to be one of those that I help coach, just go to my website, mikemilligan.com, and connect with me there, and we can help you more proactively get to that first million that you're hoping to get to.
Thank you so much, Mike. Really appreciate it. And definitely a great conversation about, because we want all the entrepreneurs to be healthy, wealthy, and happy. And sometimes you think that, I started my company and I make some money. And some people even exit and they say, I'm done. Well, you're not done yet, because there is the other part of it that you have to take care is making the money as important as keeping it. And so where you allocate those funds, how you mitigate risk, is what it will allow you to put your eggs in the same basket. And have it, because I wish, Mike, that when I started my business 20 years ago, I have this mindset, or maybe I will be listening to this podcast if it's 20 years ago, that someone told me, okay, look, there is a journey about being an entrepreneur and find clients and make as much money as possible. This is one thing. But second, keeping the money is as challenging as making it, and you have to learn, you have to pay attention, you have to start to work on that on the beginning, not at the end, because even if you exit the company and you have millions, can happen to what happened to this podcast guest, that because he was not ready and he had very little knowledge, and maybe he was not. Because entrepreneurs, they are hustlers. They want to make the product. Yes. That's what they use to the action, to sell it, to the marketing, to do this. And the investment looks boring for an entrepreneur. It's numbers, sheets, risk, accountant. You have to see the accountant for this. And it's a different dynamic, but it's really, really important if you really want to keep that money, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. And so, this would probably be like a great way to end it. Like some of my best advice. I'll go back to my grandmother for a second, right? When she started the first entrepreneurs, she told me to count every penny, nickel, and dime, right? And the greatest thing about like where people are in business is sometimes the simplest truths are the best things you could do for your business. And so, for your listeners and your audience who are trying to make changes in their entrepreneur business, it starts with the simple. Don't try to overcomplicate things. Try to make the complicated simple.
Thank you so much, Mike. And with that note, see you, all of us, following the podcast Unstoppable in our next episode, how brave entrepreneurs like Mike break that wall and achieve the first million. Bye for now.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.